Right. The issue I want to talk is the issue I want to talk about is the issue of DNA. A lot of you brothers in America, I don't know why you black American, I don't know why you black Americans are so DNA stupid. Majority of you black Americans are extremely DNA stupid. I don't think you understand the meaning of DNA when it comes to your own history. A lot of you black Americans, I love a lot of black American brothers who are much smart, but the majority of what I see in America is the DNA ignorance when it comes to your own history. Black Americans, I don't want you to be extremely ignorant. We live in a day and age in which people can access information and technology through the computers. There is no excuse to be an ignorant man nowadays. You have got information equipments like computers where people can access their history and study and see what was going on historically, especially when it comes to the history of black Americans or black people in general. What I see in black America is these black Americans claiming, oh, I'm Native American, I'm Native Indian, Native this, Native this. Native Americans never call themselves Indians. The ignorant I see within black Americans is extremely stupid. A lot of black American people, one thing I say about a lot of black Americans, you're extremely dumb. The level of IQ level, you're not critical thinkers. You lack a lot of critical thinking when it comes to your own history. You lack a lot of black American men. You're not thinkers. I don't want to blame a lot of when it comes to black women, because black women are outright completely mentally sick. But I'm dealing with these black American men. I don't want to go as far as dealing with a black American female, because they're outright completely mentally retarded when it comes to their history. So this issue I'm talking about is when it comes to black American men. Why are you extremely ignorant like that? If you are not ignorant, there is very few brothers I respect in the United States. Mostly it's a Louis Farrakhan and a sister by the name Shahrazad Ali. And the last one, sister I respected, was the late Dr. Frances Wilson, or Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, the late black woman who passed a few years ago. She's the only black woman I respect a lot. And the brother nigga Tupac Shakur, and that's it. Okay, and the late Khalid Muhammad, the late Khalid, if you know the brother I'm talking about. But a lot of what I see within black American men is an extreme ignorance when it comes to your own history, when it comes to the DNA. Every time I see black American men, there is this need to claim Native American and to put the level and the sort of like to de-associate yourself with Africa and to claim this so-called Native American thing. Native Americans, or people who, the so-called Native Americans, people who are claimed to be Native Americans, 99% of those people died. Okay, 99% perished. Now, the females who were left were the ones impregnated by the Caucasian males during slavery. The males, the Native American males, never never dated or conceived or any offspring with Caucasian females. It was only Caucasian males and the native females. Okay, none of the native Indians married into Caucasian female. That didn't exist. So that means most of these Native American males, most of them were wiped out. The native females were the ones who interbreed with Caucasian males and make their children. So in the United States as we speak today, nothing is nothing is Native American. Native Americans died out. You need to understand your history. The Native American, so-called Native American Indians did not have children with Caucasian female. Most of them, 99% of them, were wiped out. The females were the ones which were left and interbred with Caucasian men, which means their children were actually Caucasian. You know what I mean? They're actual Caucasian. They have nothing to do with America. It's like a Caucasian man with a black female. The child born belongs to him. That's his seed. You know what I'm saying? So the issue I wanted to tackle here is the issue of black American ignorance when it comes to DNA. Okay, the DNA claiming of black Americans being 90% of black American people I see today, they love claiming the Native American DNA and shun away from claiming Africa. This shows the hype of ignorance within black American men. Stop actually dishing out your ignorance to the rest of the world. Understand your history first. Understand where you come from. Native Americans didn't like to see you black people in America. They didn't. I use the word Native American, but they're not necessarily, they didn't call themselves Americans or Indians. These are not the labels they put them. The real Native American, the real natives of that land, North America, did not call themselves Indian or Native Indian or Native American. They never called themselves Native Americans. The word America itself came from European. You see what I'm saying? They never named themselves American. They didn't name the label American, and they never called themselves Indians. So now, when I see a lot of black American men and women claiming in their DNA, oh, I'm 2%, I'm 3% Native Indians, you don't understand your own history when it comes to what was happening during those times. Native Americans never wanted black people in the United States. You know what I'm saying? In Native America most Native Americans share one Neanderthal DNA with Caucasian people. They don't share any DNA with the black people. They share Neanderthal DNA with Caucasian people. When it comes to Caucasian, they actually have got similar DNA with Caucasian people than with the black people. That's one thing you need to understand. Number two, Native American people did not like black people. In fact, Native American people, most black people in America, most black Americans, you don't understand how the Native American DNA entered into the system of black people who happen to have Native American DNA blood in them. That DNA came through the mass raping of African black female slaves. If you understand that your great-great-grandmother were brutally raped, you wouldn't claim the Native American DNA if you understand what was happening to your great-great-grandmother. Most black American people you see today are the dumbest, most ignorant people I've never seen on earth. You love claiming the DNA of a Native American without understanding how the DNA of Native American Indian ended up into your bloodstream. Guess what? It came through massive, brutal raping of black African females. Your great-great-great-grandmother was brutally raped. If you knew how it entered into, if you knew how the Native American blood entered into your system, you wouldn't behave the way you look today. You wouldn't behave the same way you are in America today. Most black Americans today, your self-hating mentality is the worst attack on your own engine, scope here. The self-hating within black American females led you to behave so stupid and ignorant publicly because you don't understand what it means to have someone else's DNA into your bloodstream. You have to think Native Americans did not marry into black people. No. Black escapees, slave escapees, which broke out and escaped from slave masters, Native Americans, through their knowledge of geography of America, they were the ones which were chasing black slave escapees and bringing them to their slave master. Upon bringing them, they were rewarded with some slave black African females, in which they started using them as their sexual slave concubines. And that's how the DNA of the Native American people entered into the bloodstream of a few black people in the United States. And I see a lot of black people wanting to claim the nativeness as if you were there in America. No. Black African people who came to America long time ago, over 500,000 years ago. And those black people who came to North America, that was a time in which the world was completely black. You see, there was no any other races. That was over 500,000 years ago. The first people who came to the United States were black people from the continent of Africa, before Africa was named even Africa itself. You see what I'm saying? And those people are believed, a lot of them, to have been actually exterminated by people we call today Native America. Those people interbred with Africans who were the original people of those lands in the United States, including South America. Okay, people who we call today the Inca, the Maya, those were newcomers. The people who were there already were black people from Africa over 500,000 years ago. Long time before that is the time in which the world was completely black. It was a black world. You see what I'm saying? So the races of people you see there, this is new races. This is races which most people predict less than 20 to 50,000 years ago, coming back to the present day. You see what I'm saying? So when you call it, this is why the word Indian was put. Why did Europeans use the word Indian? They believe that those people came from modern day India, a country you see called India in New Delhi. That's why when they meet those people, the word India was put on the people. Europeans, settlers who came to North America, did not believe that the native Indians were original of that land. So they claimed these were people from India. That's why the word India was put. They called them native Indian, or the way they were called the red Indian. Notice the word India came from where? It came from India, the country which is India today. So they mistaken them that these people were actual immigrants from India. When Europeans came there, they didn't classify the Native Americans as native or indigenous of that land. They actually considered them as foreign people who came first. So they were seen as people who arrived first from the European point of view. They didn't classify them as indigenous, but they was looking at them as people who arrived first. And so they mistaken them with India. And the word red Indian was put on them. You understand me? But the issue I wanted to talk was the issue of black Americans loving, claiming the nativeness we're Native American. This is how ignorant black Americans are. Oh, we're Native American. At the moment you've got the so-called Native American blood DNA in your system, the more you get excited. You get this excited foolishness displayment on the media. You express your foolishness and your ignorance right straight to the media without knowing what it meant. Do you know what it meant? What was happening to your great-great-great-grandmother, to your ancestors 400-500 years ago? Majority of you black Americans, you don't understand what was happening to your ancestors. That's why, simply because one of the things which lead to black Americans being so ignorant is the issue of interracial thing, which is pushed today. It is pushed today for black people to camouflage the past, the brutality of the past. So a lot of black American people, you lack here. Your IQ level is so small, so tiny. It's sort of like you think you're so ignorant. You need to understand the meaning of it. How did you end up with the blood of someone else from a different nation? Majority of black people in America, due to what is being pushed to the so-called the interracial mixing of people, it has camouflaged the brutality and horrors of the past for a lot of black American people. Because a lot of black Americans and black people in the Caribbean and black people in South America, you have no idea what was happening to your ancestors. You have no clue. You have no clue. Just 6 decades ago, black men dating a black man dating for a Caucasian female, that was fatal. That was extremely dangerous for a black man. Just 6 decades ago. In the country called South Africa, that was almost dangerous even a decade ago. A decade ago for a lot of black males. But when it comes to black American men, you have no idea. You don't even check your own history. You couldn't even date a Caucasian females 100 years ago in America, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. But now you don't understand why you have got the Caucasian DNA there. You don't even think how it ended up into your DNA. I see a lot of black Americans in America, a black woman in America, exciting. Oh, I've got Irish DNA, I've got Swedish DNA, I've got French DNA, I've got Germany DNA. Meanwhile, these countries have got what you call neo-Nazi, KKK and things of that nature. Back in the days, it was a nightmare for black people. But today, you see these black people in America getting all excited, lifting up their booties and going on displaying how ignorant they are without knowing. They don't even check their history. You don't even check. Wait a minute. I want to know how the DNA, how this foreign DNA ended up in me. Check your history, what was going on. There's nobody in Israel there. You go to Israel there. There's no Israeli person who's going to get excited having a Nazi DNA in their system. Because they check their history of their ancestors. They check the history of their grandmother. Then they know their grandmothers were brutalized in the gas chambers in German Holocaust. But a lot of black American females, it's the rate of ignorance. Some of you black people in America, the type of ignorance and the rate of ignorance in America, you have got black Americans. you've got what it called an advanced ignorance. The rate of ignorance which is beyond human. It's like you are 1/5 of a human being. You've got the ignorance which pretty much is equivalent to animals. An ignorance of an animal status. That is called an advanced level of ignorance. When a person displays higher level of ignorance without checking the reasoning. A human being have to reason. Every human being, you have to check yourself like, wait a minute. How did this thing ended up in my system? Before you get excited, you need to understand, how did this thing get up in my... A human being must have the ability to reason, question, think, process in your mind. You process things you are told, things you see, you process. That is a human being. That's what a human being needs to do. You don't just bullshit and just, acting like you're a monkey or chimpanzee or something. Because a lot of things I see within Black America is the IQ level of lack of complete knowledge, lack of human, analysis. Like you need to be a critical thinker to know what was happening back in the past. You know what is happening in the past, then you analyze your behavior in the decision you make now, the present day. Rather than thinking, oh my God, look at me, I've got Irish DNA, I've got the England DNA, I have Swedish DNA. Then I start getting excited without thinking, how did it end up here? Check your history and see how did it end up here. Then you would see how brutal your grandmother went through. Your great-great-grandmother went through hell in order for that DNA, the foreign DNA in your system as black people in America, the way it came into your bloodstream through your great-great-great-great-grandmother was extremely brutal. You understand me? If you knew, picture yourself today. Let's say you've got your wife, yeah? Let's say you've got your wife, and your wife is raped by someone else, maybe a Chinese guy, or someone from Mongolia, or someone from Argentina, or someone from whatever, Europe or Asian country, comes at home and brutally rape your grandmother, or your mother, or your sister, or your daughter. How many of you would get excited? Would you get excited if you notice that if someone say, well, man, listen, we've seen your mother getting raped by someone such and such and such. Are you going to get excited? Because a person is from a different... Are you going to get excited? Or someone rapes your daughter. Are you going to get excited? Picture that in your mind. You hear the message, someone tells you your 12 or a 13-year-old daughter has been brutally raped. How do you feel? Or was brutally raped by 3 or 4 men, and your daughter is 13 or 14. How do you feel? As a normal person who thinks, how do you feel? A normal thinker, you have to think, wait a minute, your 12-year-old or 13-year-old daughter has been brutally raped by 4 males of a different whatever race, or you are told she has been brutally raped for the entire 2 days. How do you feel as a black man? Are you going to get excited because she has been raped and impregnated? How are you going to feel as a black man? See, most of you black men, this is what you need to picture what was going through. Your grandmother and your ancestors back in the day, your great-great-great, they were not over 18 to get the brutal. No. They were children. 9 years old, 12 years old, 13, 14 years old. They were brutally raped. You understand me? In your history, 300-400 years ago, they were brutally raped. Now, the DNA which comes from Europe or whatever, here's how it gets up. If you have got the Swedish DNA, French DNA, Mediterranean DNA, Italian or Turkey DNA, French DNA, Portugal DNA, it does not necessarily mean your ancestors came, it doesn't necessarily mean black people went to that region. No, it just means the ancestors of slave masters, a slave master who came from that region, that is the man who have got the DNA of all European countries. A French guy has got the DNA of Germany, Sweden, Denmark, because those are the countries in which they interbred within themselves. But then when they came to America as slave masters, they would just breed with one slave, black female, then pass on the European DNA of different countries to a black woman's child. You see what I'm saying? So next time for you black people to understand how the DNA, for example, a black person in Nigeria has got a DNA of Gambia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, because all that region, when slavery took place, those countries called Ghana, Nigeria had no name. Ghana, it was not called Ghana. All the names of West African countries, it was a region. West African country was just a region with different kingdom. The name we call Ghana today, there was nothing called Ghana, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Cameroon. There was no name like that during slavery. Okay, black people of that region interbred between different kingdoms. They moved all across Africa. So if one black person who lives there goes to America, she's carrying the DNA of the entire region, or even half of the African DNA, because the past black people intermarried to different kingdoms of Africa. And countries you see today in Africa called Cameroon, you could be born in Cameroon, but your ancestors might have come from Nigeria or South or Angola or DRC. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the DNA of everybody comes even in one person. One person can have the DNA of 28 countries in Africa, because our ancestors moved in differently. Same thing applies with the European DNA. A European one slave master, he is the one carrying the DNA of entire Europe. You see what I'm saying? Then when they go to a black female, they pass on that DNA to the black child or to the mixed child, who in turn will have the DNA of the different regions of Europe. It does not necessarily mean your ancestors, or black people came from in Africa, went to Europe, and then no. It just means Europeans, if they interbred with the black people, they pass that DNA of Europe to the black children to the biracial black children. This is how a lot of this. So the issue I wanted to talk about here was the issue of black American people ignorance, the sheer ignorance of black Americans. I looked at the black Americans, I'm like, why is these black Americans get excited when they've got foreign DNA or DNA which is not black? I was looking at a black man. Oh, I'm Irish. Look at me. I'm Irish. Another one is like, I'm Swedish. I'm Swedish. And they're booty shaking and dancing and all these black men. And I'm looking at them like, do you understand your history? What was going on through your history? Do you understand your own history? This shows how ignorant a lot of black American males are. You are very, very ignorant. You are very, very ignorant, and you suffer from hyper advanced ignorance. The ignorance of a different level of ignorance. Because if you were smart here, you would trace the meaning. What you see today, you need to understand, a lot of black American men have no idea. Guess what? In South America, no black man in South America, North America, and the Caribbean ever dated or married a Caucasian female for the past 350 years. None. The ones who were bred were black females. In fact, according to history in South America alone, 80% of black people in South America, which is a country modern day called Brazil, 80% of so-called black people in that region were fathered by Caucasian men. So if I was to trace who black people in these countries are, only 15 to 20% come from black people, were fathered by black men. 80% of black people of Brazilian background are actually Caucasian. Many people call them Negropeans. That means the black people of European descent. Most of them are I would call Caucasian black children. If I was to trace through the father, most of them come from the Europe. The only thing is that once slave masters fathered their children, they didn't demand their children from slave female. So they were fathered. You need to understand the history. There was a history in the 1800s in which Caucasian men were paid to go and impregnate as many slaves as they can, simply to prevent Brazil becoming a black African state. In 1850, Brazil was 82 to 85% black, and they reversed that through interbreeding. Today, Brazil is 40% black. They reversed from 80% to 40, from half, because a lot of interbreeding was mostly between black females and Caucasian. There was no black man, Caucasian woman. Zero. That didn't exist. So if you are a black man, you need to think here. You need to think what was happening. Black males did not go for Caucasian female, did not marry Caucasian female. It was a death sentence for a black man to do that. Majority of black American men have no idea. They don't even check their history. They don't even check your own history. That surprises me if I see black American. Especially you get excited when you've got a foreign DNA without checking. No black man went to a Caucasian female. No, you didn't. So you have to think, so if black men were not allowed to go for Caucasian female, how did you end it up? Then you start questioning who you are by tracing who was breeding with your Caucasian, with your so-called black grandmother. And I was looking at this other black man who were called the Black Hebrew Israelite, talking about, oh, Africa this, Africa that, bullshitting Africa. And I look at them and I'm thinking, oh my God, you must be careful to bullshit Africa. Your own history, majority of black people of all these regions are not children of Africa. Majority of them are not black as they think they are. Because in America, according to slavery, there was a situation only Caucasian men and black females were the only ones to breed. So the game was put, one drop blood, you are black. The one drop blood game was mostly between Caucasian slave masters and black African female. It has nothing to do with the black males. So this is why I say for black men you have to be careful and check your own history. Slave master declared that for black female, 80% of black women in America, their children came from Caucasian men. Up until 1855, black men started dating black women in 1855 to 1968. That is the period in which black men dated a black woman, married black woman, and stayed with a black woman. That's 1855 to 1968. Before that, 80% of children coming from a black American females were not from black males. No, they're not from black males. Only a chosen slave stud. Very few black men were chosen to impregnate a black woman. Very few. Back in the day, they were classified as stud or stallion, sort of like a stud. And a lot of black men in America, you need to understand your history. Don't be ignorant of your own history. You need to check your own history, and you need to understand that the one drop blood game was never designed for a black man and a Caucasian woman. It was never for a black man. For 400 years, for over 450 years, it had nothing to do with the black man. The one drop blood was mostly Caucasian men with the black females. It had nothing to do with the black men whatsoever. Most black men think the drop applies to them today. This is one thing I noticed about black American men, is you lack critical thinking and critical mindset. You are not critical thinkers. You lack a mentality to evaluate, assess, and process your own history of what was happening stage by stage. You need to understand what was happening. If a Chinese guy come to Africa and impregnate 10,000 black females, all those babies born between a Chinese man and a black African female, those children don't belong to Africa. They have nothing to do with Africa. Those children are his. Are his. Whoever impregnates a black woman, those children belong to his own clan, not to come into Africa or to a black woman and intrude your Jews and say, well, one drop blood, you are black. If we use those definitions, like Black America, if you use those definitions, then what you are saying, you are actually saying a Caucasian man is now your forefather. Using that definition alone, that means Caucasian are your forefathers, not Africa. Then Europe becomes your forefather. Asia becomes your forefather. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of black men in America, you need critical thinking here. You don't need to be dumb here. You need to understand. Here's what I'm telling you. If a Caucasian man date a black woman, a Caucasian woman, and a Chinese woman, guess what they will do? They will demand the child of a Caucasian female and a child of a Asian female as his. Then the child they father with a black female, guess what they will do? The child is black. Who impregnates her? It's a Caucasian dude. Why is the child of a black woman declared black when the father is not black? Why is the child of a child declared black while the father is not black? Think of a situation as a black man. If a black man was to date a white woman and impregnates her, and date a black woman and impregnates her, whose children belong to? Both of these children belong to him, under him, because he's the one, his seed is the one who impregnates her. But what they did back in the past, they tricked a lot of black people. into thinking that with the mentality to breed them out without them thinking. You have to think. You cannot think a person who's not black can come and impregnate a black woman and declare all these children black. That mentality, they're actually tricking you into thinking they become your forefather. In the eyes of them, then if you're saying, or it's the same, that means in their eyes, so a Caucasian man becomes a new black man. You see how they're tricking you? In the eyes of them, they're tricking you into thinking once you agree to that stupid mentality ideology, then in the eyes of people, then Caucasian man becomes black. Would you consider Europe or Europeans as black males, or all Europeans in Europe as black people? That's the mentality you are taking. You need to think that you cannot use that ideology. This is why the one drop blood thing used in America was rejected and is not used in Africa. This is why 90% of Africa today, they are not aware of the one drop rule. This is why a lot of black people in America, when they go to Africa, African people would look at and think, a person who's declared Obama is loved and is declared black because the seed comes from Africa. If the seed or the sperm doesn't come from a black man, that child is not black. But that child can be accepted as black simply today, simply because of racism and things of that nature, because people will treat the child as similar to black people. So under that condition alone, but mentality, you have to think no one can just come from all over the world and impregnate a black woman and say, this is why in a lot of things black American men don't think. You need to be critical. This is why a lot of bad things, and there is a lot of disunity and destruction among black people in America. Why? Because the slave masters are using their seed to infiltrate and then cause division among black people. Without you knowing, you can't agree that a Caucasian guy can come to a black woman and say to a black woman, their seed between them and black females will be declared black. That in another way, they're telling a black woman that we are the new black males. So you need to critically think and assess and say, wait a minute, you can impregnate a black woman and you are not black. You impregnate a black woman and you are not black, and then you declare the child born black. While it's a black man who goes to a Caucasian female, his child cannot be declared white. The child will be declared black because the father is black. Why is the child of a black female and a Caucasian father declared black? So in another way, they're actually telling a black female that the Caucasian man is a new black man. He's a new black man on the block. So you need to critically think what it means to you as a black man in the future. They're actually training your daughters. They're training your daughters, they're training your mothers to see a Caucasian man as new black males. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to think of what's going on and what they're teaching to the future of black females. Particularly that here they're aiming the black females. So what I wanted to talk here was about the issue of the DNA. A lot of black American males talk about the native Indians. Native Indians were the worst nightmare to black people. Next time you black Americans started demanding and getting excited about how I'm Native American, how I'm this and this, you need to understand what was happening in the past. Native Americans were nightmare to black people. They were hunting black women, and the reward they did for every slave they get was few black females to use them as sexual concubines. And today a lot of you black American males, you get excited, oh look, I'm 3% Native American. Do you understand what went on? Go check your history and see what that Native American, what they were doing to your grandmother. If you notice someone, if you look at someone raping your daughter, are you going to get excited? Let's say a Chinese man rapes your daughter. Are you going to get excited that your daughter is going to make a baby with the Chinese DNA? Are you going to get excited, or you're going to think, wait a minute? You know, you understand me? So, but because a lot of black American men here, you're mentally sick. A lot of black people in America, you're mentally sick. I look at you, a lot of you, I've watched a lot of videos of America, and I'm thinking, why do they get excited when they've got foreign DNA which belongs to other people? These black people in America, they get excited, they start wiggling about, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've never seen the dumbest people like this in my life. Because I check your history in America. I come from Africa. I checked Black American history, and what I see was shocking. I was like, oh my God. I didn't even know Black people went through shit like that. The Jim Crow, slavery, dogs used and things like that. Coming from Africa, I was shocked. But then, when I looked at Black people's videos in America, I look at you are getting excited. How would you get excited for knowing that your grandmothers were brutally raped? How would you get excited knowing that your great-great-grandmother was brutally raped and impregnated by force against her own will? And you have no idea what she went through. You think she liked it. Most of you Black American men of today, Black American females and Black American males of today, they're taking the interracial thing they see today, which is camouflaged and polarized their mental thing of knowing the past wasn't like that. The past was a nightmare. If you look at Israel, you see today, and study the Holocaust in 1930s in Germany during the World War II. Study the Holocaust in Germany, and guess what? Study the Holocaust in Germany and what was happening to the Israeli Jews in Germany. You would not like to have the Nazi DNA. If you were a Jew like in Israel, and you notice that your ancestors were burnt alive, put in gas chambers, how would you going to get excited knowing that you've got a so-called Nazi DNA, and you get excited? You get excited without thinking, wait a minute, that means your great-great-great-grandmother was partly brutally raped, and then you get excited. This is one thing I look at the Black Americans and think, these people must be the dumbest Black people I've never seen. You probably the dumbest people I've never seen on earth, with the level of ignorance of unimaginable proportion. I've never seen people that dumb. You need to study what was going on. And guess what? Look at the history of the Holocaust in Germany, of how Jews were gassed, put in concentration chambers, gassed, and died in millions. And guess what? That is considered nothing to what Black people went through in America during slavery. What you see in Germany, in Nazis during World War II, the gassing and killing of the Jews in Germany, that is considered minor, tiny to what Black people went through. You have to think that is considered tiny to what Black people went through in America. Slavery in America, in the Caribbean, in South America. What you study in Germany is considered a quarter. What you Black people and your ancestors went through in America was 5 times worse. 5 times worse. Your great-great-grandmothers were working back-breaking jobs from 6 in the morning until 9 every day. No payment, no what. Brutally raped and died in their thousands through exhaustion. There was no pay at all. So a lot of you Black people, you need to study here. Thousands died, thousands were. You know when women raped against their will. Some as young as 10, 6. And this is what went through to majority of you Black people in America. And you don't think, and now you have got the DNA of your slave master, and then you get excited. That makes me realize how ignorant Black people are in America. And this type of ignorance is quite shocking to me. Quite shocking, especially the fact that you come from an advanced, rich nation like America. It surprises me to how can they be so dumb and still claim, oh, Black Lives Matter? You go on the street demonstrating, and how did you become so dumb when your own history can teach you lessons of what was happening? Your own history, if you're a Black man in America, what you are going through, not only in the past, what you go on now in America, what you go on now should teach you good enough to notice that the past was worse. And you are busy getting excited having a DNA of someone else. Instead, the only DNA you should celebrate is the DNA of Africa. That's it. That's it. Any other DNA was a crime scene. Any DNA you have which is not Black and linked to Africa, it means a crime scene. Any DNA you have which is not Black, that means it's a crime scene. And if you understand, the DNA came to actually show you. The DNA is a mistaken technology which came through to just show you the past. It's like a crime searching. It's showing you what your ancestors, how many people of different denominations throughout the rest of the world. In Europe, how many people were brutally raping your great-great-great-grandmother? The DNA which is not black, the only DNA you should celebrate is black DNA, is African DNA. All the other DNA which is in your system is crime scenes. Crime scenes. You understand? If they wanted, if Europeans wanted to do you a favor, they'll take your DNA and track it back to who's responsible for raping your great-great-great-grandmother, your great-great-great-great-grandmother. They'll show you, this is the guy, this is the rapist, this is the rapist, this is how it went through, and you wouldn't like it, man. If it was visualized on the screen, you wouldn't like it. You see what I'm saying? This is what I just wanted to show you, that your level of ignorance, black men, you need to dim light. Everything you celebrate is supposed to be black only. Anything which is not, that means it's a crime scene. Any DNA which is not black and African DNA, it's a crime scene. You see what I'm saying? It's a crime scene. That's why a lot of these other races, if you ever seen them glorifying themselves when they see that they've got some foreign DNA, they rarely do that. You see what I'm saying? Especially if it's linked to black people. So that's what I wanted to say. To mention just a few, you need to be clever. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to know what you're searching, and you need to know what was going on to you, especially as black people. You need to understand what was going on through your great-great-grandmother was not good. If you knew what your grandmother went through, you wouldn't bullshit and do what you're doing today. You'd be crying. If your grandmother, what went through your great-great-great-grandmother was put on the screen, you could be crying today. Instead of bullshitting, oh my God, I've got a Swedish DNA, I've got the Irish DNA, I've got you could be crying if that was put on the screen and shown how that DNA came to you. You'd be looking down and crying. You'd be crying every day. If you see what your grandmother, your ancestors went through, all you black Americans, you would be crying if it was visualized on the street, on the screen. If what your ancestors went through was on the screen there, nothing of what your ancestors went through they teach in America. They don't show you that. If they show just a tiny, notice in America you learn about the German Holocaust, but you don't learn about the Holocaust which your great-great-grandmother and your grandfather went through. You don't learn about that, but you don't think here. This is the type of ignorance which in America, which black people which you need to be aware of, and you need to stop. 100% you need to stop. This type of ignorance, to me, coming from the continent in Africa, is disgusting. It's extremely disgusting. And it's getting ridiculous. Okay? It's getting way ridiculous. Given the fact that you cry a lot in America. Blame a lot. Oh, look at what we're going through as black people, this and that. And your own history backs you, but you don't start your own history. Simply because today a lot of you suffer from self-hating issues, which is now camouflaging what you are supposed to know. What you're supposed to know, you don't know. What you know is what you are given. And you lose what you're supposed to study and what you're supposed to know. And that's a problem. Okay, I'll just say enough for now. And I'll just telling you for now, black people in America, just, you know, you need to think and learn. Goodbye for now. Subscribe on my channels. You better subscribe. This is the only place where you should get things the way you should get it. Not the way you are given, but the way you should get it. Goodbye.